So I'm going to jump into the screen sharing and Vanessa, if you wouldn't mind letting me know if I glitch out on the screens again. That's just, it is what it is, unfortunately. So let's see.
I got you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, screen share screen. There we go. I'm like, you can do this, Jen. Here we go. And work for me. All right. So there's my little floating head in the corner. Okay, we are in week 3. Yay! Part 2 of opening the door. So I kind of just jump right into it this week. Last week we were covering things like spiritual awakening, and this week we're going to go right into ascension, because there's a little bit of difference between going through your spiritual awakening and then continuing ascending. When you're going through a spiritual awakening, you are going to have moments where you feel like you're ascending. And ascending, the technical definition, ascension is a process of aligning with higher consciousness and with the divine. So whatever that is for you on the religious or spiritual side, it's the same thing that we all connect with. We just call it different names. And so it's a little bit, it's like kind of like the, group consciousness. Sometimes ascending helps you connect with your higher self more, which is always nice too. So you can get through questions with yourself too, by connecting with your higher self or your guides. This doesn't happen instantly or automatically, but rather ascension happens incrementally. It goes in waves as we increase our present moment illumination one step at a time. It's very technical how I wrote this. So as you're going through things, as you're going through your ascension, all of a sudden, I call them light bulbs. That's one of the reasons I have, if you look at the very bottom of the screen, I have a little light bulb for the more than a medium. Because it's true. It's like all of a sudden you'll have a moment and all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, that's what that actually means. And then the more we ascend, the more different things begin to look for us. Ascension affects us in more ways than just spiritually, physically, mentally, or emotionally. It affects us on our 6 senses too. So, and I like cats, can you tell? I've ascended. When people go through their spiritual awakening, they find themselves ascending, thus lifting. Ascending means go up. So lifting through the process. You start shedding weight, and I call that energetic weight. So your abilities start kicking up to a point where you sometimes feel just a little bit crazy. I may reiterate that a couple times because it's true. You can feel like, am I crazy or did this just happen? I feel crazy because I suddenly knew something that's not a normal thing for me to know. You might be getting more messages, and that can help. That when you're in the ascension process, it shows you in your unique way that you are ascending. More messages means that you need more recognition. You suddenly start finding yourself not understanding people around you. Why does that happen? Because not only do you feel like you're ascending, but as you're going through that process, the people that are not ascending around you, people that have not gone through their spiritual awakening, it becomes more and more difficult to understand why they wouldn't want to go down that road. I'm sure all of us have been around those people. It took my husband a while to decide to start understanding what I was actually doing. His family is just now starting to accept some of those things. I talked to them the other day and they're like, yeah, that is crazy that you can still talk to dead people. And I'm like, been doing this the whole time. It's been over a decade that my husband and I have been married. So, and it's just starting to kick in. So it takes other people time to start wrapping their mind around what you are going through while you're going through your own ascension process. So it's a spiritual awakening, going through a spiritual awakening first. And we covered that in the last class. And then the more you shed off, and when I call this a weight loss program, in a way, it's an energetic weight loss program. You are losing the weight of all the things from your past. Our past loves to pile on energetic weight. As you start shedding that, that's when you start becoming more and more capable of ascension. Okay. Tools that you'll need during this process are observation, being able to observe the things around you. You'll have stronger and stronger abilities to be able to observe and recognize things that maybe were in the background before to you. You know, little things people say, things that people do, how they're acting. It's a different form of having a teacher in front of you. We had covered teachers. When you are watching other people and you're trying to figure out why they are the way that they are, it kind of proves that you're going through an ascension process. And awareness, being aware of what's going on around you, your awareness will grow, your recognition will grow, you'll start getting more messages, so on and so forth. Okay, so for those of you that are writing down the tools in your toolbox, you will want to add observation, recognition, and awareness. If you can see the whole word, there we go, awareness. Observation, the action or process of observing, notice, or perceive something and register it as being significant, something or someone carefully or in order to gain information. So observing someone or something that's happening around you, something that's going on around you, you're observing what somebody else's actions are, and you're gaining information from that. So then we move into the recognition phase where you're recognizing, hey, that's an error in judgment, or hey, let me help you with this. While you're going through your awakening, again, at the end of the spiritual awakening, I can do this. You'll see that you have a higher drive to want to help people. I tell people kind of take it easy at that point, because you're still kind of helping yourself, you know. Again, back to referencing your vehicle, your body. You want to make sure that that is being taken care of first and foremost before you start helping somebody else, or you can't give somebody a ride in your car if your car's broken down. So recognition, if someone says that they recognize something or someone, they acknowledge that it exists or that it's true, then they officially accept it or approve of it. So when you're working with your six senses, it's not just recognition for you. That's, you know, you can recognize something, excuse me, but that's when sometimes our fears or our doubts jump in. Remember class 1? We want to make sure that we're not allowing our fears and doubts to buffer or create a block towards sharing information and helping somebody. Okay. Sometimes that person may or may not accept what you have. They may not recognize what you're saying as truth or approve of it. But the important thing is that you are aware that there's a truth or an approval to what you're sharing with them. Okay. So recognition comes from both ends. It's the source, and sometimes it's the client that you're working with. And a lot of times, if somebody doesn't recognize something right away, I will actually have them write that down in their notes so that it is still documented, so they can go back and recognize it later, sometimes when the light bulb turns on for them or something finally shows that that was a moment of truth. Okay. Awareness, knowledge and understanding that something is happening or exists. Again, observation, recognition, and awareness are the key to being able to move forward in this class, because you're going to need to have these tools in your toolbox to be able to go through the lessons that I'm going to share with you in the next few classes, especially. Observation, recognition, awareness. You're probably going to get sick of me saying these things, but again, when you recognize something, when you observe something and then you recognize it, and then you have an awareness that it actually is happening or exists, that is where you start locking into the abilities that you have, and you start recognizing that hey, this may have some legitimacy to it, and you stop judging yourself as much. Okay, spiritualism, religion, science, and faith. Okay, I'm just going to cover this really quick. We have talked about that a little bit before. You don't necessarily need to be religious to be a spiritual person with faith. Faith is a little bit different than what we've been taught most of this time. Faith is more, it comes from within. Okay. I have, you know, when you hear somebody say, well, this is what's going on, so I'm having faith in this situation, or like somebody loses a job, but I have faith that I'll find another one. It's a confidence. It's a level of being able to look within yourself and then that's when you start understanding more around you. Okay. Faith in yourself is the first step in understanding how everything works. Faith is another tool that goes into your toolbox. Faith is incredibly important when you're working with sixth senses because it's judged as not normal. It is judged as you're woo woo or you're crazy or you're fluffy. And so when you have faith in yourself and faith in the messages that you're receiving, faith in the people that may be on the other side that you're talking to, you have to own that faith to be able to share messages and help people. Okay. Let's go into this a little deeper. Faith in yourself. I'm not talking about faith in God or the universe Ugh, I could not talk today. The universe or whom you believe in a religious manner. I'm talking about good old faith in yourself. Faith in yourself equals trust in yourself, which is where we start to drop the doubts. Again, that's where your confidence log comes into. Some of you it may be easier to grow the faith and trust in yourself and your abilities by adding the messages you're receiving into your confidence log. Okay. When we receive messages, they can come in all shapes, forms, and, are dictated in different ways. Like there was one day that I had something that was going on, something cooking that I was like having a little stress over. Then I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, and 5, 5, 5. And sure enough, everything kind of solved itself. And so sometimes our signs that we receive are also messages. Signs like times on the clock. I mean, everybody's probably had that moment. It's not that it's the clock that's telling you, it's the fact that your guides are pushing you to look at the clock at that exact moment. So I know we covered signs a little bit, but if you are seeing a sign like a time on the clock or something that pops up in front of you and you're like, that's a sign. I've had literal signs pop up in front of me, and you want to make sure that you log that in your confidence log so that you can kind of go back and go, that's how that worked out. So the universe and your guides and your higher self were trying to contact you. They were trying to send you a message to say, take a deep breath, have a little faith, things are going through. All right. So for those of you that have worked with me, you know that I'm a science geek on top of I do my woo-woo stuff. I truly believe that abilities are not just on the metaphysical side, they're on the physical side too. Abilities aren't just mystical gifts, they are also very tied to how our brain works. It's the power of the brain. A lot of people are like, oh, it's my pineal gland. I'm like, it's a little bit more than that. And so I've quoted Alex and said, our findings move us closer to understanding how the organization of our brains sets us apart from other species and provides such a rich internal playground for us to think freely and creatively. When you think freely and you think creatively, you are actually accessing the same area of your brain that helps you with your psychic abilities. That's the whole reason I'm covering this today, because I want people to realize that it is a natural part of our physical makeup, along with the ability to see things that maybe other people don't see. Scientists at Dartmouth College have stated, in order to make the image appear in our mind's eye, the human brain has to construct a totally new image seemingly out of nowhere. I call that matrixing. So sometimes we'll see clouds. Who's ever looked up at the clouds and seen a dragon or a dinosaur or angels? I mean, we do this thing called matrixing, and it's where our brain like puts the puzzle pieces together. That same part of our brain is actually what helps us to formulate the concepts that we're receiving through messages too. Okay. Senses and your brain. Since our imagination affects how we see and hear on a fifth sensory level, all of our five senses, it also affects how we see and hear on a sixth sensory level. Most people, that is their dominant ability. They can either see or hear, or they can do both. And then they let the rest of it kind of fall into place. Okay. Understanding the differences in the areas of the brain will give us insight into where human creativity comes from. I am a huge proponent of the fact that if you're very left-brained, I'm a very left-brained person, very logical, very grounded when it comes to things, you have to incorporate things into your right brain. You have to be able to utilize it for something creative so that you can kind of balance things. it helps activate the midbrain. So when you use left and right, you combine that together, you've got midbrain, and that's where the abilities come from. You'll see in just a second, I've got more to show you. It says, let's see how the brain works with abilities, left brain, right brain, midbrain, and heart. We receive messages from every part of our body. So the majority of it is processed through our brain, but we energetically receive messages from everything. If I'm touching this, my brain is recognizing, hey, your hands are touching your hand. So that's why I'm saying everything kind of ties together. And I'll go through the boring stuff pretty quick. The four lobes of the cerebral cortex, frontal lobe. This area is responsible for language, motor function, memory, personality, and other cognitive functions. So, you know, people that have frontal lobe damage, a lot of times they have a hard time rewiring. It takes them a few years to rewire so that their frontal lobe works more properly. The good thing about our brain is that rewiring is possible. This is also why you are capable of growing your abilities, because your brain wants to. Your body wants to grow. It wants to make these connections. But if we haven't done it, we haven't exercised those muscles. So it's like, okay, let's exercise that stuff so that we can make those connections stronger. Temporal lobe. The temporal lobe contains the area that is responsible for understanding language. That's super important because we need to basically learn how to speak another language when we're contacting the other side. That will also come later. It also processes memories and emotions and plays a major part in hearing and visual perception. So it ties to our fifth senses, but I also believe that it ties to our sixth senses, the way we would recognize it as seeing, and we wouldn't recognize it as hearing. The parietal lobe processes what a person sees and hears. It also interprets other sensory information. That little guy back here is very important to the maximization of our abilities. And then there's the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe interprets visual information, contains the visual cortex. Of course, we're talking about fifth senses on that one. However, if we didn't understand how we see things in our fifth sensory capability, we would not understand how we can conceptually visualize things in our sixth senses. Okay. Cerebral cortex. I'm going back to that because it's muy importante. Cerebral cortex is made of gray matter, which is where the brain processes information. It also has ridges and folds. We like the ridges and folds. They accommodate the rapid brain growth that humans experience over years of evolution. Folds and ridges are the quote unquote muscles that we are working with to grow our abilities. That's where we're making those new connections, okay? Along with the white matter. The white matter is a vast intertwining system of neural connections that joins all four lobes in the brain. That's where the rewiring comes in, okay? It connects everything through the pathways, neural pathways. And I know that I'm geeking out on you guys on the science side of these things, but we really want people to understand how important our physical body is and the maintenance of our actual physical body to be able to take care of growing our abilities. The midbrain abilities aren't just mystical gifts. They are also very tied to how our brain works. I know I said that in another section, but it's important to reiterate. Midbrain, the abilities run right next to your imagination centers of the brain, which lie in the four lobes of the gray matter or cerebral cortex. Again, I'm going to geek out real quick. Activating this part of the brain is what is said to enhance psychic abilities. This is where everybody believes that psychic abilities lie. So this isn't just me. A lot of this stuff is, you know, things that I've researched over many, many years, trying to make those connections between how's our physical brain working with the connections that we're making to the other side. Okay, midbrain is where the right and left hemispheres communicate with each other through the corpus callosum. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly because I'm not a doctor, which is a bridge of white matter tracks, midbrain. So like I said, the midbrain helps with our auditory and visual pathways. And basically the forebrain helps us to process information we receive. So all the different parts of our brain work together, not in just our fifth sensory capabilities, but also our sixth. So you got to give yourself more credit on the ability to grow these. The more you practice, the more consistently this rewiring will happen, the stronger your abilities will grow. When you picture the iconic shape of the human brain, the majority of what's visible in the cerebrum is with its wrinkly, pinkish gray outer appearance, it makes up about 85% of the brain and consists primarily of gray matter divided into two hemispheres, blah, blah, blah. The cerebrum is where most of the important brain functions happen, such as thinking, planning, reasoning, language processing. This is a new language we're learning, and interpreting and in processing inputs from our senses, such as vision, touch, hearing, taste, and smell. Again, the cerebrum's what processes our fifth senses. Got to give that little guy a little bit more credit for also helping us with our sixth senses. Helps us with processing and integrating things we sense. We already did that little exercise where you could kind of tell that you could feel your energy. We're sensing those things. The cerebrum's helping us do that. Helps us with processing, integrating all of those things, abstract thoughts, and how we speak. I think this is the last tail end of the brain stuff. So hopefully everybody's still with me and hasn't fallen asleep. The thalamus. The thalamus is part of the forebrain, and it helps us relay messages from visual, auditory, and our physical sensations. I wonder how the thalamus could possibly help with abilities in relaying messages. Obviously, the thalamus, like I said, looks like that little orange thing that's on the screen. Another part that's very important for us to be able to share the messages that we actually receive and decide on how we're going to do that. Now on to why we covered this brain information. It's so exciting. Okay, I'm going to move this over here. Understanding. All right, understanding the brain can help connect the dots on why it seems that abilities may run in families. How many of you can say, hey, my grandma used to read tea leaves and predict weather for the future of the weather? How many people can say, you know, my grandpa used to be a night walker, or might be able to say, you know, many people in my family seem to have abilities going back generations. This happens a lot. If you think about how the brain is, I mean, we inherit a lot of the physical properties. So we're kind of smushed between our parents. You know, we get a certain percent from mom, a certain percent from dad, smushes together. If both parents had abilities, your brain is going to form differently than, say, a normal person or a sleeper that doesn't necessarily sense those things as much. So it also happens to occur after brain injuries. A lot of times when people have brain injuries or near-death experiences, it will rewire us. Your brain goes, wait, something's not working right, so let me rewire. It's a beautiful, complex system that we have for a brain, but our bodies do the same thing. How many of you, have had a finger cut off and sewn back on, and all of a sudden it takes you a little while, but then you can use it again? And hopefully not too many people have had that experience. Sorry, apparently I'm crazy with my mouse. Okay, traumatic injuries to the brain and near-death experiences can force neurological rewiring. Thus, you may have a stronger access to your abilities than before you went through your traumatic experience. So I have met many people that have had near-death experiences and then suddenly go into a spiritual awakening and are just lost. They don't know what they're doing, where they're going. These traumatic experiences sometimes push us to ascend if we have fought it before that. So when working more directly on expanding your abilities, you are then exercising the muscles in the brain, that white matter in the midbrain. You're exercising those muscles, and then the muscles in the brain start going, ooh, let's do this. Where you may start off with a lower level of abilities, maybe say weaker muscles. You can then grow them. That just takes the homework and the practice. Practice makes perfect. All right, we're going to do an exercise. Yay. Hopefully everybody's not asleep yet. All right. So I want you to close your eyes, and then I'll explain this to you. It's a left and right eye movement exercise. I'm going to show you when I get closer. We're going to go like this, where you go left, right. Hopefully you can see my eyes. But I use this tool to activate a stronger connection. If say I'm having a little bit of an off day, or I feel kind of like, bleh, I will actually close my eyes and do this exercise. So that's why I'm teaching it to you. Use this tool, and this is a tool that you want to put in your toolbox to activate a stronger connection to your midbrain and create a faster connection to access your abilities. Okay, everybody ready? All right, close your eyes and I'll walk you through this. So rapidly move your eyes left to right. Like I said, like left, right, and back. Repeat this for 10 to 30 seconds. And you don't want to get dizzy from it. So just do it as long as you're comfortable doing this. So I'll give you a few seconds to do the left, right eye movement. I'll do it with you. Okay, and while you're doing this, go ahead and stop your eye movement. And I want you to look forward in your eyelids. Okay. And you're going to see some different lights, different shapes. Some people may see further. Try to recognize any of the colors and focus on them, or any of the shapes and focus on them directly. Okay, so keep your eyes closed and focus forward. Like you're looking forward, except you can't because your physical eyelids are closed. See if you can connect with any of the colors or shapes, or if it's just blobs. If you have any colors or shapes that have shown up for you, I do want you to write those down. So go ahead and open your eyes and take a second just to write those things down, anything that you saw, okay? I'm gonna grab a sip of water real quick before we go into the next section, which is drugs and alcohol. I cannot tell you how often this comes up during sessions or with students going and asking me about different things if they took them or tried them. I want everybody to be aware, for those of you learning to control your abilities, and that's the key word there, control, mind, body, altering substances can trigger random experiences and can leave you vulnerable to scary and negative influences. So when we affect the body, our vehicle, and we put something in it that does not leave us with control over what is happening to us, it can really open a door to things you don't want to have come in. So whether or not you've done this already, just kind of think about the experience. Maybe if you have done any of these experiences you have had, and whether or not these were mind opening experiences versus scary opening experiences. Okay, let's see if I can say this whole word. Dimethyltryptamine, DMT. A lot of people use those. They'll go to South America and they'll travel to different places where they can have these experiences where it opens up. They say that it opens up the God portion of your mind. And some people come back with life-altering experiences and they make a bunch of changes, where other people come back just traumatized from the experience because it wasn't a good trip for them. Magic mushrooms, we all know what those are. Same concept. I know some people do microdosing to help with mental stability. There are some benefits to some things, but when you're working on your abilities, drugs are just bad. You try to avoid mind altering things because that's going to rewire in a different way than you want to exercise those muscles and cause natural rewiring. Okay. LSD or acid, all of these are hallucinogenic drugs that alter your state of mind and can, like I said, can cause rewiring. Not always in a positive direction though. Their effects are temporary and can affect the mind in ways that are unpredictable. These are not the way that I teach to achieve higher effects of the mind. Okay. Excuse me, stupid cold. Alcohol is another mind body altering way that students have told me that they use to achieve an altered state of relaxation to access their abilities. Okay, I'm going to admit something. When I was younger and didn't know what I was doing and was going through my own learning curve on this stuff, I was prone to have a glass or two of wine to try to get into that state. I realized it was more because I was trying to relax. I was trying to relax to open my mind up to be able to give people messages. I was just so nervous. It was more of a nerve killer than an actual assistant. They even used to joke that Jesus was the coolest guy on the planet because he could turn water into wine. So I'm like, if he can drink, why can't I drink? So I'm not saying don't ever drink again. I'm not saying, that I'm telling you what to do with your own body. I'm just saying when you're working specifically on your abilities, this is not a pathway to open those things up. Okay. Again, the effects are temporary. They take a toll on your body, can lead to all sorts of ickiness, and do not produce a healthy state of relaxation. They create a state of relaxation, but not the one you want to achieve. I suggest using the meditation and breathing techniques to achieve your true higher state of relaxation. Okay, meditation. And some of us have time for this and some of us don't. I understand that, but sometimes just taking a couple minutes to just breathe and calm the mind and the body just really helps with connecting to different states of brain waves. So when you are connecting with different brain waves, you are connecting with different abilities at the same time. Calming your mind and body helps to open you up for signs, messages, and energies. The calmer your life becomes, and we all have crazy in our life. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, if you're a guru or if you're a beginner, we all have states of crazy in our lives. And those are the times I feel like are the most important to remember to try to do these calming exercises and try to maintain who you are throughout the crazy. Alpha state of brain waves, hyper creative state for relaxation, creativity, and problem solving. This is why a lot of these, billionaire gurus literally force meditation into their schedule. They may be 500 directions at once, but they force meditation into their schedule because this is where they can calm their brain and actually access more ideas. This is where signs and messages come in, at least more fluently, and you'll understand them better. So yeah, the more relaxed you are, the more you can pick up on. Reminder, your tool, world's fastest meditation. Like I said, for those of us that don't have a lot of time to squeeze things in, sometimes it's good to just, breathe in that white light and exhale that stress. And it helps, put more clarity into the mind because it helps reoxygenate the body at the same time as re-energizing everything and healing it. Okay. All right. We have a little bit of another exercise to do. This is a visualization. I call it the happy place meditation. We use this tool to calm the mind and help you to relax your body and mind, center and connect by reducing distractions. So happy place meditation is actually another tool that you can utilize. It does not take a long time, but it's longer than the world's fastest meditation. Of course, being world's fastest meditation, everything's going to take a little bit longer than that. This is, however, one of my favorite things to be able to do if I really have, say, 10, 15 minutes to calm down and go somewhere where I feel like all my stress is released. So that's why I call it the happy place meditation, because it helps you to release the stress. It takes you out of your current environment and puts you in a place where you are just where you just feel totally at ease and at peace. Okay. So we'll do this really quick just so that you can kind of get an idea of how this works. We're not going to take 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to walk you in and let you sit for a second and then walk you back out. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes again. Don't look left and right on this one. We're just going to close your eyes. Don't forget to breathe in and breathe out. We're going to take slow, deep breaths on this. I want you to visualize walking down some stairs. Okay, so visualize a staircase. This is also a form of subtle hypnosis. Okay, it's like a subtle version of it. So visualize walking down the stairs one step at a time. Visualize about 10 steps, count from 1 to 10. So take step 1, take a deep breath. Exhale slowly. Every time that you take a breath or a step down, I want you to relax your body as you do that. Deep breath in. Take a step. Deep breath out. You should be about to number 3 or 4 at this point. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. 5. Okay, I want you to continue doing that to number 6. Now take a step down to number 7. Deep breath in. Relax your whole body as you do that. Relax every muscle from head to toe as you take each step to where you feel very heavy. And then I want you to, take another deep breath in. should be about step 8. Okay, go to step 9. As you reach step 10 and you take that breath, I want you to visualize the calmest, happiest place that you can be in. For some of you, that might be the beach with the waves crashing. For some of you, that might be in the middle of the forest where there's just bird noises and nature. So visualize your happy place. Don't forget to continue to breathe through this. I want you to stand in your space and take in every detail of the place that you have chosen. Take in the noises, anything that smells good, any of the sounds, or if you can feel wind on your face, or just maybe some mist. If you're on a beach, maybe you can put your toes in the warm sand. But take in every detail. If the sun is shining on you, and just take a few moments to embrace everything around you. Okay, so go ahead and try to remember as much of that as you can. And then I want you to stand up if you sat down. And I want you to turn back around and go to that staircase. And then I want you to continue to breathe. And then as you take each step, start retaining those memories. And then each step, you start kind of coming back into your body and continue to breathe as you do this. Count backwards from 10 to 1, 10, 9, 8. As you do that, remember to start coming back out of your meditative state. 7, 6, 5, 4. You're at step 3, taking step 2. And now you're at step 1. I want you to open your eyes. Okay, everybody, I want you to take a couple more deep breaths. And I want you to recognize how your body feels right now. This is the super, super fast version of this exercise. I want you to be able to come back and utilize this exercise as often as you can. It's very simple to remember. You know, breathing in that white light, breathe out any of that stress, and then visualizing going to your happy place. This, even just running through this with you, has brought my level down to like relax. When we do that is when we can really start connecting. It helps our body and our mind to relax enough to start picking up on messages. So anything you picked up on, whether it was just a physical sensation in your mind, whether it was smells, sounds, sunshine, sand, trees moving, I want you to write all of that down so that you can go back and kind of re-access that. I like to do things like building out extra things in my happy place. Like I have a lawn chair that's really comfortable that I lay down on when I go to my happy place, which is a beach, by the way. So take a second and go ahead and write those down, and then we'll move on to kind of the finale. So when you do that exercise, what you're actually connecting with is what I'm wanting everybody to see. Okay. When you do that exercise, you're moving your brain more into the alpha state. And sometimes, depending on how deep you go into it, you can go into the theta, but most people go into alpha state when you are working with that kind of a meditation. So I'm going to cover some more of that next week, but I do want you to realize that all of those feelings that you had, all of those sensations that you had when you were in your happy place, are genuine feelings. What you're doing by doing that is actually exercising those muscles that I was talking about earlier on, the ones that help you connect midbrain, that help rewire. When you're working in this meditation, first off, it just relaxes the heck out of you. It's almost like a mini vacay in a way for your mind, but you're actually rewiring your brain while you're doing this so that you can strengthen your abilities. Because as we move through this class, you're going to realize how important it is to be able to understand what that sensation of warmth is from the sun, to understand what it is when you feel like there's sand at your feet, or all of a sudden you feel freezing cold, or all of a sudden you're feeling bright and cheery and you didn't know where that came from. All of these, six sensory, sight, smells, sounds, touch, taste, all of the senses in the sixth sensory side are what we're working with our brain to rewire. So this meditation will help you to get into that state of mind where you are allowing messages to come in and you're allowing your guides to work with you. It's also a good place to work with your guides. Sometimes when I go to my happy place, I will actually ask my guide to join me so that I can talk to them and have discussions and ask questions. If you use this meditation as a way to contact your guides, I suggest only going in with one question. If you have one question that you need answered, that way you can focus specifically on one thing instead of going into multiple different solutions. We want to make sure that we take baby steps instead of leaps forward. We'll be leaping soon enough. Okay, so I'm going to go back to week 3 finale. I know this is a shorter course, but there's a lot to practice in here and a lot to take in. So you're going to practice your left and right eye movement because you're training yourself to connect midbrain. One of the coolest things that I've found with the left eye right movement practicing, that actually will help you feel your third eye. It's the strangest sensation. So I don't know if anybody wants to do it again just to see, but like all of a sudden you can actually feel, and I can see why people call it a third eye, because it feels like you have another eyeball sticking out of your head. It's the strangest thing. So the more you practice that, the more you're going to train your brain to focus forward. And the more you're going to say, hey, let's rewire this. Let's exercise this. Okay. And then practicing your happy place meditation, again, will help you tune in on more sensations, more sixth sensory sensations. Because if you're just going into your mind, then when you're working with the brain to be able to go into the happy place meditation, you're usually using your visualization skills, your psychic ones. You're using remember, your imagination is right next door to your psychic abilities. The two of them are like bosom buddies. Okay. So you want to be able to practice that and use your imagination so that you can start accessing more abilities. And when you're in that happy place meditation, that's a great time to be able to say, can I smell something? Can I actually feel the sand? Let's access this so that we're telling our brains, hey, rewire this so that I can do this more frequently. Okay. Next week, we're going to cover levels of abilities and structure a lot. That's why I kind of gave everybody a little baby break on this one today. We'll cover the levels, abilities, the structure, what it means, and how to recognize your own unique abilities. So we're going to go into actually recognizing your abilities next week. Okay, so there's a lot of exercises and a lot of things that we're going to be throwing in. So what I have done up till now is to help you build your foundation, because knowledge is power. So I say we loosely, I want you to be able to have that foundation solid so that when we start going into recognizing your abilities and stretching them and doing all the things that helps you to really, really access your medium abilities, that is why this foundation is so important. And just having some basic understanding of what you're actually doing. Like I said, I love the fluffy side, but I also want people to understand that it's physical too. So we receive messages from our arms. We receive messages on the cellular level. We receive messages everywhere. Our heart is like an entire other brain that helps receive messages. So again, I don't want to cover too much right now, but let's go back into the group. Okay. So I'm not screen sharing. There we go. All right. So does anybody have any questions on today? Yes, Rebecca, go ahead and unmute.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, what's your question?
Well, right at the end there, I thought that was really good when you said imagination is right next to your psychic abilities. And when you say that, are you referring to also brain structure, or just in the sense of that they just kind of coexist together?
So I mean both. You know, they have talked about, I mean, there's been so many scientific studies behind this that I kept it as simple as possible in class, but they literally exist in the same area. So when they say pineal gland, there's multiple areas of our brain that work together to recognize touch, taste, smell, hearing, you know, visual, like all of those things. And so one of the things after doing this for so many years, I've noticed is that where there's somebody that has an imagination, you know, how many people in here feel like they've had, like they're daydreamers, or they haven't always had an overactive imagination, or they just always seem to know the right direction to go? I mean, it does feel like it's coming from our imagination, right? Like we're making something up in our head. And that's why I realized that our psychic abilities literally snuggle up with our creative side. And so, but we do need both sides of the brain. We do need the logic to be able to counterbalance the creative, because otherwise we're not going to make sense of the messages that are coming through. That's why it's all midbrain.
Yeah.
And so that is also why that left right eye movement exercise, so simple yet so powerful.
Oh, so the left eye, the rapid left right is basically balancing left brain, right brain across the corpus callosum.
Yes.
And bringing us to that space. Oh, yes. Now I get why that tool works. Oh, cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yay.
Love it.
Yes, it's true. And so I have this sounds horrible. I've experimented this situation on many people, and I've had them do the, you know, sit here in their kind of calm state, bring them into a calm state, and then I will have them close their eyes and do the left right eye movement, and then visualizing into your eyelids, because when you're visualizing into your eyelids, you're forcing the left right eye movement helps connect us at midbrain, and then the pushing forward by looking through to your eyelids is forcing your abilities and your imagination to go, what am I matrixing? Remember, I was discussing matrixing, kind of like the clouds. When you close your eyes, there's all these shapes and all these things, you know, sometimes it's just little lights and just abstract. But what you're doing by focusing in there is actually pushing your brain to rewire, saying, I want to know why I'm seeing purple. So your imagination's shooting out purple or whatever it is that you're focusing on before you. And then your left brain's like, I'm figuring this out. So it's actually quite a strong exercise, but very simple. My whole goal with this class is to get everybody to really be able to push forward and exercise and rewire without having to cause trauma. So these simple little tricks can really help. I mean, has anybody that I've taught this to before, can they tell if it's helped them? Anybody? Okay. So, and it may not be something that has, you know, that either you remember, or maybe I didn't teach you that portion of it, but left eye, right movement, left eye, right eye movement is a very good way to jump into anybody's session. So like some of you out there might be actually working with people already. And if you're not, sorry, holding that in for a while. If you are not in a zone, is kind of what I can compare it to. Like you're not in the zone right then, maybe you just had a really chaotic moment or a really chaotic morning or evening, and all of a sudden somebody's like, hey, can you do a reading for me? And you're like, twitch. No, I can't, right? Just simply doing world's fastest meditation, clear your space and do the left eye, right movement, or left eye, right eye movement. I can't talk today. Do that exercise, and it centers you so quickly that all of a sudden you're like, okay, maybe I can, because now I feel more centered. And sometimes it's just nice for calming too. Yes, Teresa.
I was just going to tell you, and I just had to look up the synonym for it, but it's EMDR, if anybody's heard of that.
It's very similar, yes.
For trauma in therapy,
Yep.
they have you look at a light that goes back and forth and you do rapid eye movement. And so
Yep.
that wiring of the brain, I mean, that really is.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is very similar to EMDR. The difference is instead of just having you go back and forth and then having you connect with like a trauma or connect with something that you have going on in the present time, I push you for abstract. So we do left, right eye movement, you know, similar to the EMDR. I don't do the tapping just because that connects with your physical body. I really want you to focus on, you know, metaphysical body. So the left eye, right eye movement practice, and then pushing towards that abstract does help rewire, but it also helps you focus on your abilities. So yes. So it just takes it a little step further. Yes, Rebecca.
One more question.
Sure.
So when I did that and I did see like orange and then I saw some shapes and then I saw some yellows. So do you equate those colors to the chakra systems, or how do you?
What does your gut equate those colors to?
Yeah,
that's where we're going with this.
Yeah, chakras. Okay, that's good. Yeah.
So if you saw orange and yellow, it might mean that somebody's trying to get a message through to you to focus on those chakra areas. If you have maybe stress or stomach problems or, you know, things in the heading towards the root chakra, that could be why your guides are like, you know, red, yellow. Shapes have a lot of association too. So, and you know, there's no harm in Googling something. I know that sounds silly.
Oh, I do it all the time.
I love Google. I'm not even promoting it, but I love them. It's so great because there's so much information out there that maybe you don't have right away access to. And maybe your guides are pushing you, hey, go look up what a circle is or a square or a triangle. What does that actually mean to you? You know, what does it connect to? So, and same thing with the colors. You can look up color therapies. It's amazing what they can bring forward. A lot of times I feel like, to me, when I see these colors, a lot of times it's like, okay, that's what I need to focus on, you know, or my guides are trying to show me a way to bring me back to that area. So yeah, that's just my experience. So, you know, as we go through this, a lot of the exercises are going to trigger different things for different people. So it's a good thing to be able to hold on to, you know, put it in your confidence log or take notes somewhere that says, hey, when I do this, I seem to keep seeing this pattern or this shape or these colors. Why am I doing that? So, like I said, knowledge is power. So the more you learn, the more you'll be able to understand, share, and actually help others with. So, you know, for those of you that are on the little bit more advanced side of things, sometimes you'll see something like an aura around somebody or sense their aura, where you're like, okay, you look orange to me. Why do you look orange? And as soon as you see something like that, a lot of times it's like, are you having stomach problems, or are you having, you know, digestive issues, or are you having, you know, immense amounts of stress, which usually the two go hand in hand. Sometimes when people look like they're purple or blues coming off of them, I'm like, oh my goodness, you're very spiritually inclined. Do you know that? I can't tell you how many times I've looked at someone and I've asked them, do you even realize that you have abilities? I mean, there's probably a few people in here that are laughing at this statement right now. So it's true. A lot of people don't even recognize what abilities they do have. The eyes, that's how I see it a lot of times. Some people read auras. I mean, I can see them, but on occasion, it's not necessarily my forte, because I can look more through here and then talk to people's guides, which is actually a little easier. I am all about like work smarter than harder. So like with this course, that's a lot of the tips and tricks I'm giving you, is because over the many, many years I've done this, I have learned so many ways of making this easier on yourself. The worst thing you can do with this kind of knowledge is to stress about it. The whole goal is to enlighten you, to make you ascend, to make things lighter, to get, you know, the garbage off, learn the lessons, let them go. So, and, you know, that's something I probably should be assigning as homework anyways, is going back and reviewing some lessons that maybe we haven't solved yet. I mean, how many of us have those? I have gone through a lot of things from my past that I felt like were carrying into my future. And I'm like, why am I letting this hurt me? So those are things to kind of review and see about, why is this still affecting you? We're going to go more into emotions as we get through the classes. I mean, I know there's a lot of baseline knowledge I'm teaching everybody. Like this class could have been halfway a snooze fest, but it's so important to know this information before we really jump into the guts of the course, where you're reading for people, you're literally connecting with the other side. Because otherwise, you want to make sure that you have the tools, you have all of the knowledge to be able to go, this is a good ghost, this is bad ghost, here's what I'm bringing in, here's what I'm not letting myself bring in, all of those things. So baseline knowledge seems pointless until we get to the guts, and then the guts are like, oh, that's why she taught me that. Okay, any other questions? All right. Well, I am going to go ahead and end class a few minutes early then. I'm glad we're getting a little bit of time to actually cover some questions. So just remember to think about them. At the end of week 5, we'll actually have a whole hour to work on things where you can ask me any questions you want that that we've covered so far. I'm sure you'll have a lot of questions by then, especially as the more you utilize the tools that I'm giving you and the more like you do the meditations and things along those lines. That's when the questions will start popping up. The more you track in your confidence log, the more you're going to start seeing patterns that consist of messages for you. So just keep all that aside and then just let me know when we get to end of week 5. And then plan for the extra time at the end of week 5 also, so that we have that extra time. And I will be posting a little bit more on Facebook. Don't forget that group is also a tool for you guys. You guys can go in and chit chat and ask each other questions, ask me questions. You're more than welcome to, and then I will get back to you, or like I said, it'd be good for you guys to interact too. So, okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming today. I appreciate you, and practice, practice, practice. And then I will see you next week.
Bye.